Hello, everyone. I am Cassandra Shine, founder of Sound the Silence in Domestic Violence. And this here is our premiere show of our first guest, Patty Ann, that will be sharing her domestic violence story. Welcome to the show, Patty Ann. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I am wonderful.
I am so honored that you are willing to share your story and how powerful your story is in helping others that are in domestic violence situations, help them to become empowered. So, thank you so much for your willingness, using your voice, your story to help others.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, Patty Ann was willing to tell her story, so we have her permission to share with you guys. All right. Patty Ann is a survivor, and she has been out of domestic violence for how many years?
I would say probably about 5, maybe 6.
Okay, so she is beyond her crisis. So that's who Sound the Silence geared their message for women that are beyond their crisis, because that way you can help other women. All right. Who were you before your relationship began? Or tell me, first of all, just tell me a little bit of history about your domestic violence situation.
My situations, they have been over a time span. It wasn't with just one relationship. It seemed like to me, it was in every relationship that I got in. It was like just one right after the other. Boom, boom, boom. So at that time, I was young. I was in my teens, like the latter part of my teens, into my 20s and my 30s. In my teen years, to me, what I thought domestic violence was just fighting. Really was not aware that there were different things when it comes to domestic violence. It's more than just fighting. It's emotional, financial. It goes beyond the fighting part. So for me, it just started out as the fighting aspect of it. With my first relationship, it was more so just fighting and the emotional abuse. And at that time, me being the age that I was, thinking that it was okay. It's a part of life, it's a part of relationship. And back then, I was told not to talk about it. Don't tell anyone about it. You would be disgracing the family, you make yourself look bad, and, all this other kind of stuff. So I never shared anything with anybody. I just endured everything that I was going through.
And usually that's the stigma behind domestic violence. And that is so important as to why we should sound the silence in domestic violence, because it became a stigma. But we're letting all of that, we're releasing all of that in 2026.
Yes, ma'am.
So this was early on your very first relationship. Serious.
I guess to me it really wasn't serious, just the teenage stuff.
Okay. So you had fighting and
arguing. And arguing.
Okay, and that relationship.
Just throwing things.
Okay.
So that's how that went. And I had a couple of those relationships throughout my teenage years into my 20s.
Okay.
So, I'm like, okay, done with this one.
Okay.
On to the next one.
Okay. And yeah, you said you had several relationships.
Was like that.
So what was your next?
After those,
yes,
I say maybe around about my 20s, 23. maybe 22 to be exact, is when I met my second child's father. And it started off good, the way that he treated me, and everything. It started off good. And then later on, I think we were together maybe 3 years, maybe. So during the course of those 3 years, I started to learn things about him. And the first thing that I learned was he had an addiction to alcohol and addiction to drugs.
Now, did you notice that initially before you?
No. They hide stuff like that. That's what I come to find out. When you're first meeting someone, they tend to hide a lot of things until it starts to surface.
So how long were you in that relationship when you noticed the alcohol and the?
I think it was about a year.
A year?
It was a year. And how it came out was we used to go to his mom's house and hang out there with his family. And you have the drinkers of the family. So his mom, his siblings, and their cousins, and whoever else was there, drinkers. So, having a cordial drink is fine. But when you start to have the harder drinks and it's continuous, those behaviors tend to surface. And I noticed those behaviors in him and his mom and his siblings. So I really didn't pay any attention to it. Just let it slide, because when he got to a point where I know that he's had too much, things would happen. The verbal abuse would happen. The arguing would happen. It's like he would pick little fights with me in order to get a response from me. And me, being who I am, I'm going to defend myself, and I will argue back, and then the family will step in and blah, blah, blah. So once the drinking came out, that's when I noticed drugs too, because they will always disappear. After they fix their drinks and they've had a couple of drinks, they will always disappear into another room and stay in that room 30, 45 minutes. And then when they come out, you can just see their whole demeanor, their attitude, their facial features, everything had changed. So I didn't want to believe what I was seeing, so I kind of pushed it in the back of my head. But the more and more we kept going over there, different events and functions, the more and more obvious it became. And eventually I said something to him about it, and that didn't do anything but make him upset, and argue with me and stuff like that. So fast forward, we were at a racing event, and him and his brother had been drinking and doing a little smoking and stuff like that. So I already knew where that was headed. So I tried to remain calm and try not to upset him, because I was always told it's something that you do to upset the person to make them act the way that they act. So on our way home, it was me, my second child's father, and both of my kids. His were in the back seat. I was driving, he was sitting on the passenger side. So as we got to our place of residence, we stayed in the country. So we were coming down the dirt road, and we stayed in a trailer at the time. So there was like several trailers as you enter. It's a trailer here and there. Ours was all the way at the bottom. So as I got to the first trailer, I was friends with all the other ladies, in that area. So just as we got right to that first trailer, it seems like something in him just snapped. Don't know what it was. Still don't know to this day what it was, other than me thinking it was the alcohol and the drugs that he was using while we were at the event. So he just hits me out of nowhere, and I'm totally caught off guard, and I'm looking at him like, what are you doing? And he just kept going. So he opened the door, he got out the car. When he got out the car, I locked the doors, I rolled my window up and locked my door. He was, pulling on the door, trying to get to me, to the point where he ended up smashing the window. So glass was everywhere. Glass got on me. And I was turned around making sure that the kids were okay in the back. It woke them up. They were yelling and hollering, screaming and crying. So I'm like this, trying to stop him from hitting me because at this point he's coming through the window at me. So, and then I was just blowing on the horn, hoping somebody would hear me or somebody would come out and see what was going on. So the young lady that was in this first trailer, she came out. When she came out with a baseball bat. And she came towards the front of the car at him, it's like, leave her alone. What are you doing? What are you doing? And I just yelled, call the police, because I didn't have my phone, couldn't get to it. So he got back in the car. He told me to drive down to the house. So I drove down to the house. He got the kids out the car and went out the house. And I was slow to get out because I was injured. I was hurt. So when I did get out and go in the house, he asked for my phone. Gave him my phone.
This is the man that
man.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Came out the house.
Mm-hmm. But the boyfriend, my boyfriend.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying the person that came out the house was giving you direction.
No,
okay.
It was him. He got back in the car. So when we reached the house, I gave him my phone, and then he went and he pulled the phone jacks out the wall. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this man is going to kill me because I don't have my cell phone. I don't have the house phone. I don't know how I would be able to call 911, because I'm sure I'm going to need them. Mm-hmm. So he looked at me, he told me, go run some bath water and go clean yourself up. So I did as he instructed. When I went in the bathroom and turned on the light is when I saw my face. I saw what I looked like. And that made me cry even much more because I couldn't understand, why did he do this to me? What was his reasoning? Because I hadn't said anything, hadn't done anything on the way home. So I don't know why he attacked me the way that he did. So, okay, get in the bathtub, cleaning myself up, I hear a knock at the door. The knock at the door was the sheriff because of how deep down in the country where the police didn't come, only the sheriff. So in my mind, I'm thinking the girl called for some help for me. So he answers the door and I'm in the tub and I can hear them asking, is everything okay? He said, yeah. Then they asked for me. And he told them that I was in the bathroom. I was in the bathtub. So they called for me. I got out, put a towel on, and I came out. They could see my face. So they asked me to get a coat on, and one of the officers took me out the house. And I sat in the police car. So while they were talking to him, I said maybe 15 minutes later, I see him coming out in handcuffs. And I kept my head down because he had to walk by me. So I kept my head down so I didn't have to look at him. Mm-hmm. So they put him in the car and took him away. By that time, my mother and my grandmother had pulled up. So I ended up going home with them that night because I didn't want to stay by myself because I didn't know if he would be able to bond himself out and all that kind of stuff. So I went home with them. So a couple of days passed and I returned back home. But I guess me not wanting to be alone, and that was my fear, and I think that was part of my problem of not putting myself in these situations. The fear of not being loved, the fear of being alone. So,
as they say, it usually take 7 to 9 times.
And it took
before you make a decision.
Yes. So, went home, a couple of days had passed. What did I do? I went to jail to see him. Because at that time, things had calmed down. We were apart from each other. So I figured maybe he's cooled off, and I'm okay where I'm at. So I go see him. He sees me. He gets a look at his work, what he has done to my face. He's apologetic. He apologizes, and I'm thinking it's really sincere, so take him back. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we get back together, going on about our life. The next year, it was okay, kind of rocky, still a little bit of this and that here and there, but not as bad as that first year. So the third year is where it all ended for me with this relationship. really don't know what sparked that other than I think, he may have been jealous because I'm a pretty female. I don't consider myself to be ugly. So I guess it must have been somebody that said something to me, or the way that they looked at me, or something, or the way I smiled at somebody else. Not really sure. Because, the slightest, smallest thing can set them off. So, we were at his mom's house once again. So we're going home. And this time I was living in Apex, North Carolina. So when we got home, sitting on the couch or whatever, the kids are, playing and stuff like that. So he's in the kitchen doing something. So then he comes out the kitchen, he grabs me by my hair. He has a knife in his hand. And he looks to my kids and he tells my kids, when you wake up in the morning, you're going to find a corpse, which is me. So I tell the kids, just go to your room, go ahead and go to bed because it was late. So, me and him, we're just, exchanging words, and I'm trying to remain as calm as I can because he still has me and he still has his knife pointed at me. So eventually he lets me go. He goes and get the camera and he starts taking pictures of my face, taking pictures of me. And so I'm like, well, what are you taking pictures of me for? He said, because in the morning you won't be here. You'll be dead. So I didn't say anything because I didn't want to upset him. Didn't know what his next move was going to be. So I tried to remain as calm as I could. So we ended up just going to bed.
Were you scared?
I was scared. I was scared because I didn't know if I was going to wake up in the morning. Didn't know if he was going to harm my kids. I didn't know any of that. So I just prayed about it, went to bed. He slept with the knife under his pillow all night long. So the next morning when I woke up, I was like,
so you did fall asleep?
I did. I went to sleep. I didn't sleep as good as I normally would sleep, but I went to sleep, because I didn't know. Every little move, I'm up peeping, looking to see what's going on. But the next morning, I was up early. So he was still asleep. So I did my normal routine because now that I know what domestic violence is, they always say, make sure you continue your routine. Don't do anything different, because if you're doing something different, it will alert them that you may be trying to leave them. And when they get a whiff of you trying to leave them, the cycle starts all over again. So I did my normal routine, but in the process of me doing my normal routine, I added some other things in there that may have seemed normal to him because he really wasn't up. So I'm getting the kids together. As I'm getting them together, I'm also packing an extra bag for them, and I'm packing an extra bag for me. So I take them to the car first, load them in the car, and take their bags to the car. Then I come back and I get my stuff together, my bags, and stuff, and I load them in the car. So after I did all that and came back in, did one final sweep, looking around, make sure I got everything I needed because I knew I was not coming back. So I made sure I had everything. So I went in the bedroom and I woke him up and I told him that I'm getting ready to go to drop the kids off at school and daycare, and then I'm going to work. But I didn't go to work. I had already planned out my day. So once I told him that, I was leaving to take the kids to school and then I'm going to work, my last words to him was, I'm also leaving you. I will not be back. And he jumped up. I ran out the door, got in the car, and backed on out the driveway and went on my day. After I dropped the kids off, I went to the magistrate's office to get a restraining order. Got the restraining order, went to court that afternoon, and they did all what they needed to do.
Now, let's back up for a minute. So before you left, why did you, I'm not going to say why, but what was the purpose of you saying, I am leaving you? And that was kind of risky to say that instead of just not saying anything at all and just go ahead on about your routine. And what was your strategy as to why you did that?
My strategy to that was to let him know that I have had enough. I've taken all that I can take, and I'm not doing this anymore, and I'm not doing this anymore with you.
Was that a way of you taking your power back and letting him know and as well as bringing you some type of peace?
It was.
Because you knew that this was the closing, the turning of, not only the turning of a page, but the closing of a chapter and pretty much a book.
Mhm.
That was a way of you kind of empowering yourself, do you feel?
It was for me because I had made up in my mind the night before that this is it. And I've got to make a decision to do something to save myself, to save my children. So I made up in my mind, I'm done. I will no longer allow myself to go through this with him. You know, this was it, you know, especially after you told my kids what you told them. And then taking pictures of me and all this stuff playing in my head, everything that happened the night before, I said to myself, this is it. I've got to plan my escape. And that's what I call it for me, because that's what it was for me, was escaping him, escaping this situation, escaping this relationship. So that's what I did in my mind. Nobody knew nothing of what I was doing, not even my grandparents, because my grandparents are the ones that raised me. So I ended up staying with them for about a good month. Until we, you know, finished all the court proceedings, and then I returned back home. And when I returned back home, I had a sense of relief. I was scared still, yes, because whenever he was released, they did reach out to me. The advocates for the domestic violence victims, they reached out to me to let me know that he was being released, what day he was being released, and all this kind of stuff. So I was scared, you know, but I said to myself, you're stronger than this. You can handle this. You're going to be okay. And I kept saying that to myself every day. And I was, he didn't bother me. After that, he never bothered me. We came to an agreement to co-parent. My only request was he not come to the residence to pick up his son. I would take his son to my grandma's house or either his mom's house, and he can pick them up from there and return them from there, and I would get them from there and bring them back home. That's the arrangement that we had.
Now, did y'all live together at the time?
We did.
So how were you able to get him out the home?
With the restraining order, I told them everything that happened, and then they already had on file the bruises and everything. And they asked if he had things at my house, and I told them, yeah. So what happened was I had to meet the officer there, and he ended up coming with officer escort to get the things that he had left behind. And they were there during the whole process. Now, I wasn't visible, you know, I was somewhere else, but I was still in the area, and they watched him, you know, get everything that he needed or whatever. When that was done, they called me to come back. And that's how we handled that.
And how long ago was this? Was that here in Winston-Salem?
It wasn't in Winston-Salem. It was back in Raleigh.
Okay.
Where I'm from. So it was, everything happened back there. And I have had some things to happen here. Okay. So after that situation, you know, we co-parented, and that was it. You know, he went on his way, I went on.
And could you let the audience know what place it was in Raleigh that helped you far as being an advocate for women in domestic violence?
All I can remember was it was through the courts. When you're in a domestic violence situation, they have advocates in the court from domestic violence resources, and I don't really remember the name, but in court, there's always a representative in there that is with you, that will speak to you and will advocate some things for you. So they advocated some things for me.
Okay, I was just wanting to know, just to give the resources for the women that may be in Raleigh.
I can look it up and get it back to you.
Okay.
But yeah, so I dealt with that situation.
Woo, that
was my very first, I guess I can call it, in-depth.
Traumatizing.
Yes. Domestic violence relationship.
Oh, that's very powerful what you did.
That's when I won't forget that one, because that was my very first one. So let me see, around about this time, like what, in the 2003, 4 maybe. So, after him, I was kind of skeptical about
Dating.
talking to people.
Mhm.
So, kind of took a break, I guess you can call it. Then later on, in my 30s,
Let me ask you this: during this time, did you do some self-reflection, as far as like giving your time to heal?
I didn't.
You didn't
I didn't, because I didn't know anything about
about
that.
it. Okay.
So there wasn't any self-reflection for me. The only thing that I knew was I was not going to get back into something like that again.
Okay.
That's the only thing that I knew. I did not attend any classes anywhere. There was nobody else to come and talk to me after all the court proceedings was over. It was like it just vanished. It just went away.
Okay.
So didn't know anything else to do.
Okay.
So, and I guess that's why the process just continued, because for me, I felt like there weren't any new resources introduced to me at that time throughout any of this, really. I'm not sure why, because the advocates, I would have thought that they would have said, okay, well, we have these classes that you can attend, or you can go to this group or this group. None of that was offered to me, so I didn't know anything about that. So I just dealt with it how I dealt with it. And for me, dealing with it was to move on,
Well,
because
yeah.
now I'm alone again. I don't want to be alone. So I'm just moving on to the next person. So that next person was my first husband. And my first husband, I knew him when I was in my teenage years. We used to date, and that kind of fizzled out.
Mm-hmm.
So years have passed. I want to say this is now 2014 is when we rekindled again. And the love I had for him back then in my teens was the same love that I had when he resurfaced.
Mm-hmm.
So, and let me back up for a minute. Back then when we were dating, there was a little domestic violence, but nothing like what I had went through with my second child's father. It was just more of the arguing, back and forth type of stuff. So, fast forward 2014. 2014, I was living in Greensboro, and that's where we met up at. But he was here in Winston. He had created a life here in Winston after he got out of prison. So we began talking through Facebook, then exchanging numbers, and then I would come to his house sometimes he would come to my house. We would hang out, go out to dinner, go and do things together. So, I'm loving all of this, the way that it's feeling,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we just picked up right where we left off. So as time went on with that as well, I began to see some things with him, and that was the cheating, because I wasn't the only one that he was talking to. He had 2 others, so there's a total of 3. So, I would question him about it. He would get mad, but it wouldn't be anything. There wasn't no type of violence there.
Right.
We would just discuss it or whatever. So at this point, I had gotten a job here, but I was still living in Greensboro. So I was commuting back and forth. And then I ended up, moving here. So after that, and then finding out about all his other female friends that he called them, I made a decision to let him know, look, this is not the life that I want. I'm geared more towards just having that one person. I don't condone sharing anybody. I don't want to share you, and I don't want to be shared. So he really couldn't see past that. So I made a decision to take myself out of that relationship. And once I took myself out of that relationship, I guess when the light bulb came on for him and he finally realized he wanted me back.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually he proposed to me. And we got married on his birthday, June 18th of 2015 is when we got married. And then we merged households. Now, not knowingly to me, after we got married, he was still cheating. But I didn't notice any of that because he didn't give me a reason to notice any of that. So he kind of kept that
He upped his game.
Right. So there was nothing for me to suspect, you know. I had one suspicion, but you know, looking at it and analyzing it and stuff, it wasn't, didn't pay any mind. So, at the second year of marriage, laying in bed, you know, and my phone is just going off. It's a messenger. Messages from this lady. I knew this lady. She's been in my house. I've been to her house, you know. So her message was, it was something about my husband. Oh, her message was, I feel sorry for you. That was her message. So when I read it, I texted her back, how long have you two been seeing each other? Because I knew. I knew right then, you know, that suspicion that I had way back then is coming to life.
Did you suspect her before y'all got married?
Not before we got married. Now, after we got married, yeah, because she would always need him to come over and do stuff. And I'm like, well, why does she need you to come over and do stuff? Where is her boyfriend or her husband? You know, why you gotta go hang a picture? Why you gotta go cut her grass? Why you gotta go fix her car? Where were you when we were not married? If that makes any sense. She wasn't calling you when we wasn't married. I mean, it could have been going on. Didn't know because he didn't give off any suspicion. But now she want him to come over and do all this stuff. And I'm trying to figure out, well, why? You know, we're married now. Where's her person? So, and he was in the bed with me because he worked third shift. So he was in the bed. So I woke him up because I'm mad now. And I show him the text and he's like, I don't know what she's talking about. She crazy, da da da. So he gets up, he puts his clothes on, he's getting ready to leave. And I'm like, well, where are you going? We got stuff to talk about. You know, I have this text here, so something is going on. And it's obvious that something's going on because I guess she's feeling some type of way now. I don't know if he tried to break it off with her or whatever, but if you try to break things off with somebody, they get mad, then they want to tell the other person, all this other kind of pettiness stuff. So I'm assuming that's what's going on. So he gets up, gets dressed, and he leaves. So I'm just sitting in the house like, okay, so fine. So at that point, you know, I had all the confirmation that I needed, and I no longer wanted to be in that marriage. So eventually he came back home. I wasn't there because I left for a few days. I went and stayed in the hotel, you know, for a few days or whatever to get away from him because I needed to think what was going to be my next move. Okay, did that. So when I finally went back home, we sat down at the table, we talked, and I told him that I wanted a divorce. That was probably the worst words that I could have ever said to him. Because after I said that, things went left field. He got upset. He started to come at me, but he didn't. That didn't come until later. And I guess the reason for that being is maybe he thought that I was playing, or maybe he just needed to give me some time and space to cool off and maybe we can come back and rethink. But even with that space, I was done. So few weeks went on. And once he started to see that this was really happening, that's when little things started to happen because I looked for another place. I secured everything that I needed to secure before I made my final last move. And he wasn't happy with that because when it came moving day, he thought he was coming with me. He wasn't coming with me. And I really hate that he knew where I was going because we did go look at a couple of places together. But I also let him know that he wasn't gonna come with me. So I had made my decision, and he knew what decision that was, where I was moving to. So he knew where I was at. So when I moved, he didn't come right away, but he finally came. And the day that he came, I didn't want to open the door, but he was standing out there just banging, just showing out. And it was a townhouse, so there was a neighbor next to me. She opened her door because she thought somebody was knocking on her door as hard as he was knocking. So she opened the door, she saw who it was, she closed the door back. So I said, okay, let me just go open this door so, he can stop drawing attention over here. So I opened the door. He came in, and I went back in the kitchen. He followed me in the kitchen. And I had picked up my phone, so he snatched my phone out of my hand. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, you don't need it. I said, I do. Give it back to me. I said, I'm not going to call the police or anything. I just need my phone because I was texting somebody. So he gave me my phone back. So when I finished, he had his back turned, so I slid my phone in the kitchen drawer. So then he started talking crazy to me. Don't really remember what he was saying, but so I walked out the kitchen because the kitchen was an enclosed space. I didn't have anywhere to run if I needed to run. So I walked out and I went in the living room. So he came behind me, he just started pushing me, saying, get upstairs. And I was like, no, I'm not going upstairs. What do I need to go upstairs for? It's time for you to leave. You got to leave. He said, I'm not going nowhere. And if I do go, you're going with me. So I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? I'm thinking, well, is he going to do something to me? Did he come over here to kill me? What? So he's just pushing me. He's like, go upstairs. So I proceeded upstairs. He's still pushing me. So we get upstairs. He pushes me on the bed. He jumps on me. He just starts holding me down, choking me. And I'm just doing everything that I possibly could do. I'm hitting the wall. I'm yelling and screaming. And I think the neighbor heard me because I say maybe within 20 minutes, all I hear is sirens. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, they're coming for me. They're coming for me. And he hears the sirens. So as they get closer, I guess he's like looking out the window and stuff. I already knew in my mind what was going on. Somebody called the police for me. Somebody to help me out. Once again, somebody has come to my rescue. So he gets off of me and I run downstairs. I open up the front door and I run outside and I say, he's inside, he's upstairs. So they go upstairs, they talk to him, and they're talking to me outside. Because, they always talk to each other separately. So eventually they get him to leave and they told him not to come back. And I told him that, this was his car. So he didn't have a license. So, of course, he didn't want to get in there and drive away without a license. So he left the car. So after they left.
So did they arrest him? So he left on foot or called someone?
He left on foot.
Okay.
He left on foot. Later that night, he came back and he picked up his car. And once again, here I am. I find myself back in the courtroom getting another restraining order. Okay. Now, they always tell you to get restraining orders, but to me, restraining orders is just a piece of paper. Because if they really want to get you, they will get you. That piece of paper really don't mean nothing.
Well, restraining orders are one of the highest risk of women losing their lives once they get it.
And I found that out to be true because so many women have had restraining orders and they still end up not being here with us. So to me, that's just a piece of paper with writing on it that really does not mean anything. It didn't mean anything to me because even if he came over and I called, you arrest him, 24 hours, they out. Thought it was put in place to help me, but no, it didn't. So, okay, fast forward.
Was that here in Winston?
This was here in Winston.
Okay.
And, a couple weeks that went by, he pops up at my job. And, where I sit, you can see out the window, so I see him. So, and I had a restraining order. And I alerted them that he was here. But to keep him from coming in, I went out, because I didn't want no drama inside the building like that because I know how he is. I know how his anger is, and I didn't want that. That's a big embarrassment to have somebody come to your job and show out like that. So I went outside. And he was out there raising his voice and everything. And I just told him flat out, look, you want a divorce? I want a divorce. I'm giving you what you want, and this is what I want. So you got it. That's it. I'm done. So, of course, they called the police. Police come, but by the time the police came, he was already gone. So eventually all this died down, and just it went away again. And we didn't have any more dealings or contact with each other at all. So I was able to get over that in my own type of way. He didn't kill me. He could have. If nobody had called the police, he could have, but he didn't. So, yet again, that was situation number 2. And that was in 2017. So 18, 19 passed. I had relationships here and there, but it was no more than just going out to eat movies and stuff like that, because I was like, I'm tired.
And after this, did you do self-reflection or as,
For
giving
this,
your time to heal and not getting into another relationship?
for this I did, because this was my first marriage, and this was a man that I really, really can say that I loved. But love is different definitions. So my love may be different from what your love is and the next person's love is. But what my love was for me was, I love this man. I married this man. I married for love. I didn't marry for anything else. That was it, just love. But I guess he didn't love me the same way that I loved him. So that marriage put me at my lowest. And, people saw me at my lowest and at my weakest. And I didn't think that I was going to ever come up out of it, because I had nowhere to turn, nobody to talk to, or nobody that could understand where I was at with all this, where my mindset was. Because it was like, at this point, I'm really beginning to think that it's me. I'm the problem. I'm the issue. Why can't I have a good relationship? Why can't I have a loving relationship? Why can't nobody love me? Why is it I'm always loving somebody, but they don't love me back? So I'm putting all this blame on me, and it's weighing me down to the point where I can't find myself no more. I don't know where I'm at, So the only thing that I know to do was to turn to the Bible. I opened up the Bible and I started reading the Bible, and that gave me a sense of relief, because I still did not know of any classes, any other organizations, or nothing. So once again, I'm back alone doing this by myself. So I went on, until maybe about 2020, 2021 is when I started to date again. Got divorced in 17, just here and there stuff. And then I just took a minute for myself. So maybe 18, 19, I met somebody. They were in South Carolina. They ended up moving here, and we ended up getting married. Worst mistake ever. And I think because I wasn't yet fully healed, I went back to all that I knew. So that marriage only lasted maybe 3 months, because within those 3 months, there was a situation to come up where he wanted to go back home because he was homesick. He wanted to see his children. And in the past, me and him had traveled to South Carolina together. So now all of a sudden you want to go by yourself. You want me to drop you off, and you stay down there for 2 to 6 months, but you're married. You're freshly married. And that didn't sit well with me. So I told him, no, I'm not taking you anywhere. If you want to go, you call your family member to come pick you up and take you. And I said, when you go, make sure you take all your belongings with you, because I don't want you to return. It seems like those words, no matter how they come out, I don't want you no more. I want you to leave and don't come back. However you put it, those words of leaving
Snapping
somebody,
words.
they sent a person into a whole different person. And he snapped just like that. And I was in bed on my phone texting when I'm telling you stuff. So he came in here, he came on my side, he grabbed me out the bed. So at this point, you know, after all I've been through, I'm fighting back now. Because this I've had enough. So I'm fighting back. And I break free. I call the police, you know. They come. So in the midst of me not being around after I'm calling the police, this man has went and put 2 Snicker bars in my gas tank. I didn't know that at the time. And I didn't know it until the next day when I went to go put gas in my car, and I opened all this stuff around the opening. And he put a candy bar in my gas tank. So at this time, he's gone. Because the police came, you know, the day before, and they took him on. They saw the bruise. They took pictures and everything. And so they asked him, did he have anywhere to go? And he did, because he had an aunt that lived around the corner from us. So that's where he went till somebody picked him up. He ended up back in South Carolina. So, and of course, you know, I filed for divorce and stuff like that. So after that one, that's it.
So basically, a lot of times, if we don't give ourselves time to heal, we attract the same person in a different body.
Mm-hmm.
The same spirit, not the same person, but the same spirit in a different body. So, woo.
And I've had plenty of those spirits. That's just 3 that, you know, I told you about.
Powerful stories.
There are others. You know, there was one person that came to my job that tried to put me in the trunk of my own car.
Mm.
And luckily, I was screaming so loud, because this was done on the side of a building. I was screaming so loud that one of my coworkers came out and told him to stop, you know, to let me go. That's the only thing that saved me. Because if he would have gotten me in the trunk, because I was fighting like crazy to get away, for him not to pick me up, to put me in his trunk, because I already knew what was going to happen to me.
Mm.
So, but there are others, but just those were enough to make me say, okay, you gotta wise up. This is not the life that you want. You know, you got a lot of living to do. So after that second marriage that ended in divorce, that's when I really took time for me.
And so what did you do to change some things as far as what you were attracting?
Well, I know, probably like a good year to just focus on me, learn myself. I stayed away from negativity.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed away from people that was always arguing, drinking, smoking. I stayed away from that. And to this day, I still have a problem with that. If I'm with somebody that drinks, I know the difference between cordial drinking or having a drink after work to unwind. They're different, you know. So when I see something that looks different than that, I will hurry up and remove myself from the situation, because I know what it leads to, and I know how it makes me feel. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me feel like something's going to happen to me. And so I tend not to put myself in those situations.
So now you're more or less recognizing some triggers.
Mm-hmm.
You're recognizing some yellow, red signs.
Mm-hmm. Because when people drink, their real self
and that's
comes
been
out.
your experience.
Yes, from my experience,
Yeah.
what I've seen with
Mhm.
happening with me. When people drink and they don't know their limits, things happen, and they start to treat you a different way,
Mhm.
and that way is disrespectful. You know, calling me out my name and everything. And I know it's alcohol, but still, you are supposed to be able to know your limit when you're drinking,
Mhm.
and you're supposed to know how it makes you act as a person when you're drinking, but some people don't know that. So now, when I see those things, I remove myself from the situation. If I'm with friends, family members, whoever, but okay, well, I'm getting ready to go. I'll see you guys later. and I go on because I don't want to be in the midst of it. So I know what my triggers are. And I just took that time to just work. I worked a lot. I really don't have any friends here, no more than coworkers, and coworkers sometimes not friends. So I just keep it cordial. I'm a person that stays to myself. So I don't go out a lot.
I know you said you read your Bible
Mhm.
and you've become more aware of what may trigger you from your past relationships. Did you do any like journaling or any just really going deep within?
Mhm. I didn't do any journaling. I didn't go deep within. For me, I guess how I handle situations is just to be alone and just think, okay, well, what do I want out of life? What do I want for me? And once I have that, then I move on. And this is just how I deal with situations in my life. I think about it, and I come up with some things in my head that I'm gonna do, and then I just move on from it and just start implementing. I've never really done any journaling. Never been to any type of women's groups or nothing like that. I make sure now I look out for me.
Yes. You're creating healthy boundaries and you know how to recognize the signs that may trigger you.
Mm-hmm. That's
for your childhood, excuse me, were there any abuse or alcoholism? You don't necessarily have to be your parents or anything like that. Just when you were growing up as a child.
Yeah, my grandparents raised me.
You don't have to go into deep details, but just a brief. Was you surrounded or around family members that may have, we are shaped by our experiences. And a lot of times we have unhealed childhood traumas, which gears us or reflects to us these relationships that we may develop as we grow older. So that's always a question I'm interested in because we are shaped by our unhealed childhood trauma.
Yes, and I'm sure that my unhealed childhood traumas are still unhealed. But for me, I've learned how to not deal with that.
Right.
So for me, in my own eyes, in my book, I'm healed from that because I tend not to condone that. But
were you around that growing up?
Like I said, my grandparents raised me. When I was born, they came to the hospital with a suitcase and they told my mom they was taking me because they had just lost a child. So they taking me to raise me as their own, and they did just that. Okay. So growing up, as I got older, maybe 10 years, 11 years old, 12, and so on and so on, my granddad, he used to drink a lot. And I would see him at his worst on his drunk days, but he wouldn't bother anybody. He wouldn't argue with my grandma or nothing like that. That didn't start to happen until maybe around about 14, 15 is when he began to be violent with her. So in the midst of me seeing that, I was out there. I was a promiscuous little girl, my teenage years. So I ended up having to go stay with my mom. And I didn't want to, but my grandparents like, well, since you don't want to listen, you want to sneak out the house, you want to do this, you want to do that, we're going to go send you with your mom. So that's what they did. So I stayed with my mama maybe.
How old were you when you?
15.
Okay.
I was 15 going into 16.
But they pretty much raised you.
Right. So, I couldn't argue with that. What am I going to do? Who am I going to go stay with? I ain't got no job, no nothing. So I went. I was only with my mom. See, this was like June. So school was already out. So I spent the summer with her. And when I started school, I started school there in Durham. That's where I was. But during the course of me being there with my mom, her boyfriend was there. My sister and I didn't like the boyfriend because he had predatory behaviors. And I told my mom about it, and there was some stuff that went on that was really, really deep that I knew inside that wasn't right. And I alerted the adult, and the adult didn't believe me. The adult thought I was just making things up and stuff. So stuff just kept happening and it made me uncomfortable. And the last straw that happened was that my mom and this man wanted me to have a baby for them. And that was just, they were gonna pay me $500. And I can't do that. I wasn't going to do that. And after that situation happened, because it's more detailed than that, but after that situation happened, I called my grandma and I told my grandma what happened. And I say within a couple of days they were there to get me and they took me back. Okay, so when I go back, by this time, it's around about 2 months later, I found out that I'm already pregnant. So I guess, before I left to go stay with her, I was already pregnant but didn't know. So I didn't find that out until I got back here. So, I'm pregnant, then got my granddaddy, he's drinking and all this other kind of stuff. So when it really became violent, they were having a discussion about me. And my grandma was on the phone talking to somebody about me. And my granddaddy was out back. He had already been drinking and all this other kind of stuff. So I guess my grandma didn't answer a question of his, and he must have gotten upset. So he came in, he hit my grandma. And I was standing in the kitchen when all this happened, so I witnessed that. And she put the phone down, she turned around, and she hit him with the phone. She hit him so hard, he fell. So, I don't know what to do. So I just run in my room and I hide and I stayed there. But that was the first time it had escalated to that. But all the drinking and stuff, it was there. It was present. And he drank right up until he developed
cirrhosis of the liver or something.
No, he had that, but he had Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay.
And then she had to initially take care of him. So I watched all of that. I watched how he deteriorated. I watched how it kind of bared weight on her, and she didn't divorce him even throughout his drinking spells. And, even when I was a little girl, he would put me in the car with him after he had been drinking. We'd go for a ride. But at that time I was young, so I didn't know anything about that. So yeah, I'm gonna get in the car. This is my granddaddy. He's gonna take me for a ride. We're going to the store. We want to get this. We want to get that. So that's what we did. But as I got older and looking back, I started to understand more. But, and then my uncles drank, so I was around them and their friends. And then, I had some friends to drink. So I know what alcoholism looks like. I know what it looks like for me. And so now I'm very cautious and careful about being around a person that is like that. Because I know what it can do to you. I know what it can do to a family. And I don't want to be around it. I choose not to be.
Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. But you've got some powerful stories, and that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. Okay. So what would you say to someone that is currently in a domestic violence situation? What would be some advice, maybe resources, or how the community can help someone that is in that situation? Because we know people are in the situation, they're silent. What is some of your advice you would advise someone in real time right now?
Well, my advice to you, anyone else that's out there that is in this relationship currently, is to speak up. and speak out and speak loudly. Speak to everybody you can speak to about your situation. Make it known that you are in this situation and you need some help. Um, Being silent is not going to help the situation. It didn't help me. It didn't help me until I started to talk about the situation. Um, Go to your local social services department. Speak to the domestic violence unit that is there. Um, have 911 on speed dial. You never know when you're going to need it. Have a plan. Don't tell anyone about the plan, especially the abuser. Keep the plan in your head if you can. Don't leave any traces of what you're planning to do. Just put it together, and when you are ready to implement it, you implement it and you don't look back. You keep going. I implemented my plan and I didn't look back. And I don't look back to this day. I keep moving forward, but the biggest thing is to speak. Open your mouth. I don't care if you gotta tell somebody that's walking a dog on the street. Tell them. You never know who's in a position to assist you and give you what you need to assist you in getting out. Because you can become a survivor just like me, but you have to speak. You gotta make it known. You gotta let somebody know what's going on. Keeping it inside is not gonna help. It's only gonna hurt you worse than what you're already hurting. And don't blame yourself because it is not your fault. I wish somebody would have told me these things way back when.
Yes. What part of your story are you most proud of, and are you still in your healing journey or recovery phase? I think we're always in a healing journey because we evolve in different stages of our lives.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm most proud of myself is because I left. And that was one of my biggest fears, is staying in a situation and possibly ending up dead, because I could have been in so many of my situations.
Yeah.
I could have not been here today speaking to anybody.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Proud of you. I mean, your story is so powerful, Patty. I mean, you've had an amazing journey.
And I'm still in my healing process.
Yes.
And
I think that's a lifetime journey for everybody, whether in domestic violence, they're in some type of healing process. I mean, we evolve, but yes.
Even, in the relationship that I'm in now, I never expected this relationship and I wasn't looking for it because I was focused on me. This person came to me. And we talk about it sometimes, how we met. And it was only because people were telling him that she's a good person. She's been through some bad things and she needs somebody good in her life. And I think that's where it all started with me and him. And to this day, like I said, I'm still healing. So, and he knows a little bit of my stories, not all because I haven't shared all. At some point in time, I will. But I've shared what he needed to know about me, just in case something was to happen that's out of the ordinary. He knows that it's a trigger for me. So he already knows, well, this is the reason why I'm acting the way that I'm acting, or the reason that I've shut down, or whatever the situation is. He knows. He knows enough to know that part. But like I said, I'm still in this healing journey, so I'm not perfect. Some things arise that I have to remove myself from, even with him. Even though I know he is not that type of person, he doesn't condone in those type of activities. It could just be something small and simple that he may not know, that I have to tell him, well, this is why I left, the room because of this. Or this is why I didn't come over here with you guys because of A, B, and C. So I'm still evolving every day. It's every day I learn something new about me and my journey. So it's an ongoing thing, and I think it's going to continue to be an ongoing thing with people. You're constantly, like you said, healing and evolving. So it's just an ongoing process.
Yes. Grateful that you've, sometimes we get stuck, and grateful for that you've gotten unstuck. You know, sometimes we can't get over, and you don't never get like totally over, but like we said, we're evolving. It's not what happened, is what you do
To get past it.
to get past what happened to you. And you've got a powerful testimony, and I thank you for sharing your testimony, your story, because it's not easy for women to share their stories. And so I know from your story, you're going to empower more women to tell their story. And because you have not just one story, you got several stories and how you gain your freedom. Sometimes women feel hopeless, and I'm speaking from a women's point of view because that's who I deal with the most. Um, and that's the biggest thing, is not living in that fear and able to escape, as you said, into your freedom, because you must live. You must live. And fear is one of the biggest things that gets individuals in a domestic violence. So when that fear takes over, they feel like they have no power. And you know, that was a very bold move you made with your.
It was.
That was a very, but it was very powerful.
It was necessary for me in order for me to move on.
Yes.
And I'm proud that I can now sit and be able to tell my story without crying, because I know some of you will probably sit there like, well, she's not shedding a tear, she's not upset. I've passed all of that because I've had years and years and years to cry, to get it all out. Now, if I'm watching a movie, because like I'm a big Tyler Perry fan, Tyler Perry movies and plays I can relate to, because there's a piece of me in every single last one of his movies. So I can relate to that. And sometimes when I watch them, I do cry. I do get upset because I know I was there.
Yes.
I've lived that already.
Yes.
And when I know or see or feel that a woman is going through that, it makes me angry. It makes me angry. But I know they have to be ready. You have to be ready to make a move. Until you are ready, you're not gonna do anything. You're not gonna make a move. You're gonna stay in it because you start feeling guilty because you got kids together. You want to stay because of the kids, or whatever the reason may be. You start feeling guilty, and then people want to put that on. Oh, you shouldn't leave because of this, and you start to just it embeds in your head. But you got to be stronger than that. You got to wake up, and you got to know that you deserve more. Your children deserve more. You're not the cause of what's happening to you. And once you make up in your mind to make a move, it gets easier. It gets a whole lot easier.
Yes, you got to choose you, and one thing that kind of was confusing to me was when I first started understanding. A lot of times we don't understand domestic violence until we're in that situation, or our family member or something like that is in that situation. And at the end of the day, they would say, it's up to that woman to leave, in which I was thinking like, but y'all supposed to help her. But it's so true. It is up to you. You have to finally make that decision yourself. At the end of the day, you can get all the advice, all of this, but at the end of the day, you have to make that decision yourself. Even with the restraining order, even with all that in place, like I said, you can get all the help you need, but at the end of the day, you have to make that choice, because it does take usually 7 to 9 times, or even in Patty's situation, different relationships until you say, it's not she didn't deserve what happened to her, but it was recognizing these unhealed traumas and things like that. You're attracting the same person in a different body, but it wasn't her fault what happened to her. So understand me clearly on that.
Mhm.
Not blaming Patty at all, but sometimes we have to heal those or recognize those things that are drawing those type of behaviors or those type of people to us. But at the end of the day, as Patty said, you have to choose you. You have to choose you. Okay, Patty, your story was so powerful, and I thank you so much. That was really touched my heart, and I am so honored that you were willing to share your story because that is so hard for many women. For one, because you have to expose people, but it's the truth.
It's the truth.
It's the truth. But you have just liberated so many women. So many women. Your story is so amazing. And I got a purple balloon here for you because domestic violence is so heavy. I want you to pop that balloon because that's not a easy topic to talk about. So,
Well, this balloon is for me and all the other women out there that are ready to release, ready to be heard. This is for you guys, and this is for me.
yes.
Ooh.
Woo!
And I also want to extend myself to anybody. If you want to talk or you have questions, reach out to Miss Cassandra. She can pass my information along to you guys or give me your information and we can meet and we can talk.
Mm-hmm.
Willing to help you in any way you may need it, help you find the resources, help you plan, or like I said, you just want to talk. I'm here. I'm an open book.
Yes. And if you want to tell your story on Sound the Silence and Domestic platform, just reach out to Sound the Silence and Domestic Violence. And I will leave my email. It's STSIDV 2014 at outlook.com. If you're ready to share your story like Patty Ann. And as Patty Ann said, if you would like to reach out to her and talk and share some things with her, I will leave her information. Or do you want to say your email?
My email is, everything is lowercase. It's Patricia_Ray, RAY 32 at yahoo.com.
And I got a gift that I made for you.
Well, thank you so much. I like gifts.
Go ahead and pull it.
It says, I released the silence in my voice. And I did. My voice is no longer silent, and it will never, ever be silent again. I make sure my voice is heard loud and clear to this very day. And if I can help you release the silence in your voice, reach out. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So as we close out, if you are going through any domestic violence situation, reach out to your local domestic violence coalitions and get some help. Get some help. There is a lot of help out there. And here in the Winston-Salem Society County, they have a new SOS program to help anyone that is going through a domestic violence situation. We have family services, we have family justice center here. You can look, I don't know the numbers by heart, but you can look those numbers up online. So make sure you're not sitting in silence. So, sound the silence in domestic violence. It is through our voices and stories that we can help or inspire others to become survivors. I am Cassandra Bethea Shine. Thank you for tuning in.